A seismic shift in global energy is underway, one that is sending shockwaves through markets and governments around the world. The old order, where Western powers dictated the flow of oil and gas, is being upended by bold new alliances and strategic moves. On September 2, 2025, Russia and China signed a landmark energy pact centered on a massive new gas pipeline that will stretch thousands of kilometers across the heart of Eurasia. This agreement is not just about energy. It's about forging a partnership that could reshape the global balance of power for decades to come. This isn't just business. It's a direct challenge to the West's dominance, especially the United States. The pipeline represents a new axis of cooperation, one that bypasses traditional Western-controlled routes and institutions. Presidents Putin and Xi finalized the deal during a grand military parade in Beijing, using the global stage to signal unity and strength. Their public display of partnership was a clear message to the world. Russia and China are ready to lead together. The agreement secures Russia a vast new market after being cut off from Europe, while China gains a reliable overland energy supply that strengthens its economic security. Both nations are now less vulnerable to Western sanctions and market pressures. For the U.S., this is a blow to President Trump's vision of American energy dominance, as the Russia-China axis creates a closed continental market, sidelining American LNG. The U.S. now faces the reality of a world where its influence over global energy flows is waning. The deal is about more than gas. It's about shifting alliances and the future of global leadership. As new partnerships form, old alliances are tested, and the world's political landscape is being redrawn in real time. As Russia pivots east and China gains leverage, major decisions are increasingly made without Washington, altering the post-Cold War balance of power. The world is watching as a new era of energy and influence begins to take shape. The centerpiece of this ambitious partnership is the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, a massive 600-kilometer artery stretching from Russia's resource-rich Yamal Peninsula, cutting through the vast steppes of Mongolia and finally reaching deep into the heart of China. This project is not just about moving gas. It's about redrawing the energy map of Eurasia and forging new links between two global powers. Engineered to deliver a staggering 50 billion cubic meters of natural gas every year, Power of Siberia 2 will fundamentally transform Eurasian energy flows. It's set to rival the scale of Russia's former exports to Europe, but now redirected eastward, signaling a major shift in global energy dynamics. When combined with other Russian pipelines already in operation, Moscow could soon supply over half of China's imported gas needs. This would cement a deep and lasting economic interdependence between the two countries, making them critical partners in the global energy market. Yet key details remain unresolved. Pricing, financing, and construction timelines are all still on the table. China, leveraging its position as the buyer, is pressing hard for steep discounts and favorable terms, making negotiations both complex and high stakes. For Russia, this pipeline represents an economic lifeline after losing its most lucrative European markets to sanctions and political tensions. For China, it's a strategic move toward energy security, providing a reliable supply immune to potential naval blockades or maritime disruptions. The pipeline's strategic value is immense. As a land-based supply from a friendly neighbor, it operates beyond the reach of Western influence, sanctions, or military pressure, giving both countries a sense of security and autonomy. Despite intense Western sanctions, Russia has not been isolated. Instead, it has found a powerful new partner in China, allowing both nations to sidestep Western pressure and build a mutually beneficial alliance. For China, this deal means not just energy stability, but also greater leverage over other suppliers. It strengthens China's negotiating position and ensures its industries have the fuel they need to keep growing. Ultimately, the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline is more than just infrastructure. It's a new axis of power, reshaping alliances and the future of global energy for decades to come. China's support for Russian energy goes far beyond simple pipeline agreements or routine trade. In recent years, Beijing has become Moscow's most important energy partner, stepping in as Western nations have pulled back. This partnership is not just about economics. It's a clear political statement on the world stage. In open defiance of U.S. sanctions, China recently imported its first cargo of LNG from Russia's sanctioned Arctic project, publicly signaling it won't bow to American pressure. This move was widely covered in Chinese media, and officials made no attempt to hide the transaction, underlining their willingness to challenge the US-led order. This bold step exposes the limits of US sanctions, especially when it comes to a global powerhouse like China. Despite Washington's efforts to isolate Russia, Beijing's actions show that alternative alliances can blunt the impact of Western restrictions. At a recent Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit, Russia and China promoted a vision of a multipolar world, casting the US as an aggressive hegemon. Their leaders stood side by side, emphasizing unity and shared interests. Their narrative is clear. They claim to be building a fairer global system, one that is free from Western dominance and more inclusive of emerging powers. China's motivation is straightforward. Its energy demand is soaring as its economy grows, and Russian gas is both cheap and reliable. For Beijing, securing stable energy supplies is a top priority, especially as it seeks to avoid overdependence on any single supplier. The deal gives Beijing significant leverage over other suppliers, including the US and Qatar, allowing China to negotiate better terms and diversify its energy sources. By diversifying its sources and openly siding with Russia, China is playing a masterful game of energy geopolitics, balancing its own needs while reshaping the global energy landscape. The result is clear. China secures its energy needs, weakens US influence, and helps build a parallel economic system that could challenge the existing global order. In this new reality, the US can no longer dictate the rules of global energy. The world is watching as China and Russia reshape the balance of power, one energy deal at a time. President Trump's vision is simple: make America the world's top energy supplier and use that power to shape global politics. His administration declared a national energy emergency, slashed regulations, and promised to flood the world with US LNG. Announced deals with Europe, Japan, and South Korea totaled hundreds of billions, but most were more hype than reality. In 2024, total US energy exports were just $165 billion. The administration's targets are wildly unrealistic. The plan outproduce rivals, lower global prices, and weaken Russia's economy. But the Russia-China deal creates a locked-in market for Russian gas, insulated from American competition. Trump's strategy faces a harsh reality. The world's energy map is changing, and the US can't simply outproduce its way to dominance. The new Eurasian bloc is rewriting the rules. America's energy ambitions are running into geopolitical walls. To realize his energy dominance dream, Trump launched a sweeping deregulation campaign. Climate-focused rules were scrapped, and the pause on new LNG export permits was lifted, signaling full support for fossil fuel expansion. The administration argues that cutting red tape will unleash private investment and boost exports. Critics warn this will increase pollution and public health risks, prioritizing short-term gains over long-term sustainability. Local communities are pushing back, fearing the environmental and health impacts of new projects. The result? A collision between federal ambitions and grassroots resistance. Deregulation alone can't overcome the real-world obstacles on the ground. Despite deregulation, America's energy dominance faces major roadblocks at home. The U.S. lacks enough pipelines to move gas from production fields to export terminals. Building new ones is slow, costly, and politically fraught. Trump's tariffs on steel and other imports have driven up construction costs, undermining his own energy goals. Local opposition is fierce. In places like Delaware County, Pennsylvania, residents are fighting new LNG terminals, citing alarming health statistics and cancer rates. Grassroots resistance can stall projects for years, regardless of federal policy. The administration's focus on sweeping action ignores these complex local realities. Without infrastructure and community support, export dreams remain out of reach. The U.S. can't dominate global energy if it can't get its product to market. Policy contradictions and public health fears are formidable obstacles. America's energy ambitions are being tested at home as much as abroad. America's energy ambitions are squeezed from both sides. The Russia-China deal creates a vast, self-contained market, slamming the door on U.S. LNG exports to China. With China locked into Russian gas, global demand for American LNG drops, pushing prices below profitable levels. At the same time, Trump's tariffs make U.S. energy projects more expensive, raising costs for pipelines and export terminals. Higher costs mean American LNG is less competitive against rivals like Qatar, Australia, and Russia. The U.S. energy sector faces a strategic trap: shrinking markets abroad and rising costs at home. Trump's plan to outproduce and undersell rivals is undermined by both external deals and internal policies. The new geopolitical reality is making U.S. energy dominance harder to achieve. America is caught between powerful rivals and its own contradictions. The Russia-China Energy Pact marks a fundamental shift in global power. For decades, the U.S. and its allies set the rules for energy trade, with the dollar as king. Now, a Eurasian energy bloc is rising, operating outside Western influence. This move toward a multipolar world weakens America's tools, like sanctions, and reduces its leverage. When Russia is sanctioned, it turns east to a massive, eager market. Trump's energy dominance strategy was meant to bind allies and pressure adversaries, but the new bloc moves a huge share of the market beyond U.S. reach. The consequences are profound. China and Russia are likely to coordinate on security, tech, and more. Their energy partnership is the foundation for a broader alliance to counter U.S. power. The era of uncontested American leadership in energy is ending. The U.S. is now just one player in a more fragmented, competitive world. The Russia-China deal is a major setback for Trump's energy dominance agenda. The dream of the U.S. as the world's gas supplier has collided with a new Eurasian reality. America's focus on deregulation and big promises hasn't solved real-world constraints, limited infrastructure, rising costs, and local opposition. Meanwhile, Russia and China have played a patient, pragmatic game, securing long-term supply and leverage. Their agreement is a masterclass in strategy, contrasting with Washington's rhetoric. The pact is a wake-up call. Energy dominance requires more than deregulation and declarations. America's influence in global energy is being seriously challenged. A new, more competitive era has begun.